This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIK.
Ever think that? No. I mean, we won the Joe Moore Award, and I thought we sucked. You know what I mean? And that's how it is, man. It is.
Welcome back, Eddie Radosevich. George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. Just had a lovely conversation on a Monday afternoon with Bill Bedenbaugh. First time, I think we figured it out. First time we had talked to him in like 2 years, maybe?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
I mean,
April of 2023.
At least in an interview official setting. But a lot of really good stuff. You can watch the entire interview here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel, George. And coming out of the first major scrimmage, you had some notes over the weekend. It sounded like everything went pretty well, all things considered, on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think they had any super serious injuries, which is always good. I think the defense sounds like they kind of won the day. I think the offense also had some good moments. So you got to go check it out on Soonerscoop.com. I don't want to give away too much, but it also sounds like Jaden Jackson had quite the day.
Jaden Jackson, just a
monster
unit of a man. I was going to say something else, but certainly good for the defense, right? We move into week number 3 with Oklahoma. Talked to Michael Fasusi today, as well as Ryan Fodje, that we will highlight here. This is going to be a pretty... this is a very offensive line specific show today to get into everything that Bill had to say about his unit and Michael Fasusi, Ryan Fodje. It certainly sounds like the expectations that were extremely high for them coming into the season or into the spring when they went through it as, I guess, first-year freshmen. It continues here with their first fall camp. Before we get to all the stuff that Bill Bedenbaugh had to say, let us tell you about our good friends over at William & Lauren, the official custom clothier of OU football. William & Lauren outfits your favorite OU players in custom suits that boost their confidence off the field to match their confidence on the field. Their perfectly tailored clothing ensures every suitor stands out in comfort and style at prices that make luxury accessible. You can visit William & Lauren in Oklahoma City or in Tulsa or online at WilliamandLauren.com. That is WilliamandLauren.com. Dress like a champion to make your style as legendary as OU football. Thank you to William and Lauren. They're always been with us here over the last year. They supplied you with the good-looking suit on the wedding day.
Yeah.
Love it.
Hey,
Love it.
No, you're bearing the lead here today.
What's that?
No hat today.
My hair is getting extremely long, and the hat that I wore today, it's a little bit too small for the noggin.
Letting it flow.
It's not good. Going to get my haircut this week, though. So
me too.
We have that to look forward to. What day?
Tuesday.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Well, I'm going Thursday. I thought maybe we would go.
We go to the same place.
We do go to the Midtown Barber. Shout out. How about that? Love the people over there. All right, let's get into a little bit of what Bill Bedenbaugh had to say today. Certainly sounds good. This offensive line obviously is going to be a key component when you're talking about can this offense make a step underneath Ben Arbuckle and John McTeer and Jay Knott. They're going to need some help up front, George.
Yeah, and I think that there, and rightfully so, a lot of questions from the fan base of what is this offensive line going to look like? Are they going to be improved from a year ago? The bar is extremely low, and I think we all agree it should be better. But how much better can it be? But, talking to Bill Bedenbaugh today, it certainly sounds like he's confident that he's got a group that can go and win some football games. And, in terms of the depth and talent, I think it's night and day from what it was a year ago. He talked a lot about today having some of the guys back from last year, as well as some of the new guys like a Derek Simmons, who, a lot of people expect to play a lot this year. And then, we'll get to it a little bit later in the show, but obviously the young freshmen, it seems like they were really pushing for some playing time this year. So I think Bill, I don't know about you, Eddie, I walked away hearing from Bill thinking he thinks that they have a chance to be pretty good up front.
But probably not ready to proclaim that they are going to compete for a Joe Moore Award or anything like that. You heard him at the top. It's never going to be good enough, but we've come to kind of know that with Bill Bedenbaugh, and obviously coming out of last year. I think the rallying cry in the Troy Everett or whomever that we talked to has always come back to the idea that they just have to simply be better. You can't give up 50 sacks a season.
Yeah, and I think Bill is somebody who's, no BS. He's not going to come out there and tell us lies. So, I trust his evaluation of this group. And, he seems confident that this group can get the job done. I think that they still have a ways to go. They need to stay healthy, I think is a big part of it. I don't think Bill cares much for that part. But, I think that he does think that there's potential for this group to basically develop into a pretty good group.
Let's start at the top. Here is Bill Bedenbaugh, just kind of giving an update now, 9-10 practices in, how he feels about his group.
As a coach, you're never satisfied. You know what I mean? Do I feel good today? Yeah. Do I feel great? No. But if we continue to get better, you know what I mean, then we'll be fine. We've got everything that we need.
Your offensive line need to do the next 2 weeks to be ready for game one?
I think it's just a consistency. Again, I think everybody's a little bit different, and I'm not going to go through every individual of what they need to do. It's like the 3 things that we got to get better at this week is communication, all right? And part of that is listening, being focused, all right, straining to finish better, especially in pass pro. Like we're in good position, this and that, then we'll get beat late. Well, that can't happen, okay? Because if it takes 6 seconds to throw the ball, it takes 6 seconds. That's what it is, all right? And then leveraging blocks better in the run game, understanding with all the movements and all those things where the play is designed to go in the pass and the run. Whether we're sprinting out, we're dashing, he's setting up in the pocket, he's setting up in the right over the right tackle, all those things, understanding where to put your body based on what the play call is and what the defense is doing.
Bill, last year, you had some capable bodies, but not a lot that had a lot of experience. It seems like you have more of that this year. How's that kind of showing itself?
Yeah, I really do. I believe, we have good competition for the most part. You know what I mean? And I think, like I said, interior-wise, there's really good competition. I think we've got 6 to 7 guys. Again, I'm not making any predictions that I think we can win with right now. Again, it's 9-10 days into camp. But from what I've seen, the progress and the getting better with all the things that we want to get better at, I've seen it, and again, we got to keep going. You can't ever relax. So, we told them this is the most important week of camp. This is when a lot of teams have a lull. This is where we have to rise and get better every single day. We got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I felt like they did that today. We got to do it again tomorrow. We got to do it again Wednesday, have a off day with meetings Thursday, practice Friday, Saturday. So we'll see where we are Saturday, but feel good about the progress we've made.
Bill Bedenbaugh, I thought that was interesting too, talking about very coach speak when you're talking about this is the biggest week of the season, just in terms of kind of getting everything ironed out. But at the same time, you look down at the schedule, and now you're 19 days away from the season opener. It seems like they're going to continue working with that base. Keeping guys healthy is obviously going to be important, but maybe for the first time in a while, we've heard some good things about somebody like a Heath Ozida coming back into the fold after missing spring alongside Logan Howland.
Yeah, huge, for Heath. It sounds like he has been one of those guys that maybe didn't have the best start to camp just because he missed spring. And it's not that he was playing bad, but I think there's a lot of attention on Eddie Pierre-Louis. I mean, I said it on our show. I was like, I think Eddie Pierre-Louis is going to start.
Sure.
And until today's practice, Eddie had taken the majority, if not all, the snaps, first team snaps at left guard. Sounds like Heath has gotten into the mix. Sounds like he got some first team reps today. I think he also maybe got a few in the scrimmage on Saturday. Logan Howland, same situation. With the first day we went out to practice, he was running with the third team at left tackle. Now it sounds like he's playing some right tackle. He's running with the first team because you've got some guys injured. But those are 2 guys, Eddie, that really late last season were playing pretty good, decent football for Oklahoma. Not the best, but they were also thrown into really tough situations. I think that Bill Bedenbaugh has some really high hopes for them, as well as some of the new guys that have entered the program.
I guess we should say, too, that there are some guys banged up right now. And I don't know if it's banged up. It's all words, right? But it doesn't sound like anybody has any long-term injury types of things. More so concussion, that type of stuff that's going to be keeping some of these guys out. Injuries definitely not something that Bill Bedenbaugh wants to talk about, but he did talk about getting some of those guys back, including Heath Ozida, as well as just a leadership unit in Troy Everett and Fodje coming back this season for Oklahoma.
Billy, last year you had some tough luck with injuries and things.
I don't even want to talk about it.
I know, but some of those guys played, right? And
Yeah.
they got good experience. How's that going to help this unit this year?
Well, obviously, experience on the field doing it, practice field. And again, we're lucky we get to go against a really good schematic defense and then really good D-line. So that should obviously get us ready for it. But there's nothing like being on the field in the game. You wish, Logan and Heath, 2 of the guys that played quite a bit, they missed spring. and for young guys, you guys may not remember, but Creed Humphrey, as good as he was, missed the spring, his redshirt freshman going into a sophomore year. And, he's the only guy I've ever coached that I really felt like he could, leave after 2 years. And then, it hurt him, when you're not practicing. As good of a guy as Creed Humphrey is, not getting those reps hurts, but they're both getting better. It's been a little inconsistent with both of them. I worked them in slow, just because coming off shoulders as an O-line, you're using your shoulders all the time, force, you're pushing, you're getting pushed on, so this today, I saw a bigger jump in both of them than I have at any point. So hopefully it just continues to get better.
What are you seeing from Troy Everett as a leader, and then also just physically in his performances?
Yeah, great leader. He's always been a great leader, man. Loves to play football. He is the unquestioned leader of the offensive line. Fabecchi's really stepping up. And Fabecchi's playing as good as he's played since he's been here. But Troy's bigger now. I don't know exact weight today, but he came into camp at about 314, 315. So that's a big thing for him. He's got more strength. So, and again, he's got to get better, but he's playing as good as he's played since he's been here.
What about Derek Simmons kind of brought to this group, and how's that transition going?
Yeah, really, really good, really good. You don't know. The only game I saw him play was NC State, where there's kind of comparable competition, and he did really well. But then other than that, and I'm not dogging on anybody, but it's not the SEC, so you don't know how he's going to respond to that. But I think it's been great. He's a big, physical, athletic guy, and really smart guy, has really learned the offense. So he's got all the traits and tools. Again, just like everybody else, got to continue to get better, never get satisfied with where you're at. Even if you have a good play, a good day, it's on to the next day.
Derek Simmons, one of those new guys to the program coming in, and certainly seems like if he can get back onto the field after nursing a couple of, I think it was a concussion that we reported last week or the week before, get him back onto the field. Let's talk a little Luke Baklenko as well as Jake Mikailu. It sounds like, Jake is somebody that comes in from Stanford, and I think a lot of people feel like he could be somebody that pushes for a little playing time behind somebody like a Troy Everett at the center position.
Yeah, and I think Troy has played well. He's clearly the unquestioned leader, like Bill said, of that offensive line. And I would even say, he's one of those leaders in the locker room for the entire team that people look up to. I expect him to be, a captain this year several times, I'm sure. But I do think the staff likes Jake Mikala quite a bit. I think they think his upside is really high. He started at center last year for Stanford and graded out pretty well. So he's a younger guy. Obviously, Troy has been around now for a while. So I still expect Troy to be the starter at the beginning of the season. I think Bill's going to lean on a lot of those veteran guys early in the year, but don't be surprised if Jake Mikala gets into the rotation, because I do think that they like his potential at center.
Certainly some tough decisions that are going to have to be made up front. Maybe that's
Which
a
is
good thing, right?
It's
because
good because
of the depth.
Last year they didn't have. It was like you have to make this decision. There was no. It wasn't tough. It was easy for them last. They're like, oh, we don't have anybody else. Like you have to play. This year I don't think that's the case at all.
Certainly going to be some tough decisions, and maybe because some of the freshmen have lived up to the billing, that makes it even tougher. And let's get to Michael Fasusi and Ryan Fodje, because I think hearing from Bill Bedenbaugh today talk about both of those guys,
it'll get you fired up.
It gets you fired up pretty well, right?
Yeah.
And
it's not often that he talks about players like the way he did today.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. Here is Bill Bedenbaugh talking about Michael Fasusi as well as Ryan Fodje. What's it going to take to get these guys onto the field early this season?
It's really like anybody, just consistency. It's not the flash things that they do. It's not the freaky athleticism. It's doing things right over and over. And that's not any position. You know what I mean? As of right now, they're going to play. Whether they start or not, we'll see. I think we're in the 9th practice, but they've proved enough to, have a chance to get on the field. And, I think we've got, some pretty good competition, especially interior right now. So, the biggest thing with every guy is being consistent day in and day out. And especially, when you're going against a really good defense, a really good D-line, you're going to take some lumps, but you got to learn from it and not make the same mistakes over and over.
It's really just been focusing, getting better in my hands, my eyes, and my feet. Just doing exactly what I'm coached to do, and just mastering my craft in that. So that's really been the biggest thing, and of course just getting smarter as a football player, like looking around the field, like sending back or sending safety, what the defense is gonna do. So things like that, just again mastering my craft.
Yeah, I mean it's been good during camp. One thing that helped me the most is summer workouts. Really, grinding with Smitty every day, Coach Sway. The boys getting me right. So I feel like that's really the biggest impacts in my success in fall camp so far.
What are some of the things you've been working on pretty much during this fall camp, trying to get prepared for the season?
I'd say for me it's my mental toughness. We're on a long drive, 12, 13 play drives. I got to mentally strain to finish. Yeah, I'd say that for me and just my hands. In the O-line meeting room, we talk about eyes, hands, and feet, in that order. So that's what we all got to really work on together.
I hate to put unreal expectations on them. You know me, I'm an honest dude. Like I haven't had, and we've had good players here, really good guys that are all pros. I haven't had anybody like that at that age. Just overall, they aren't afraid. They don't care who they're blocking. Whether Fasusi gets his ass kicked by our Mason or not, he ain't scared. You know what I mean? He's going out there to win. Ryan Fodje is the same exact way. He's going to line up again. And he's going to have confidence, and he's going to learn from that. Both of them just turned 18 3 weeks ago. That's it. They're 18 years old. You know what I mean? So are they going to make mistakes? Certainly they are. You know what I mean? But it's really, at this point, pretty impressive where they are for that age and being here 8 months.
It's all just going to come down to my mental toughness, and if anything, that's what I'm focused on the most, just working, just working, like not being scared of anything, not being scared of anybody. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. Coach B talks a lot about that mental focus, mental strength, mental toughness. He also talks about just straining, being in the pass, being in the run, straining to finish every single thing. And I think that's what I'm really big on right now.
Do you feel like you're ready to play at this level?
Yes, sir, I am. And it's just that's why I got Coach B. That's why I got my teammates. That's why I got this defense. So it's been amazing just going. Having everybody in my circle, and that's making me ready for this league.
One thing to note, Eddie.
Please note it.
From Monday's practice, and go subscribe to Soonerscoop.com because you could have got this info a while ago for $1. But Michael Fasusi, first team left tackle today in practice. Jacob Sexton, a little banged up right now, opened the door for Fasusi to get in there and get some first team reps. And look, I don't know what's going to happen. I know that Fasusi is getting better every single day, and I think it's starting to really click for him. We know physically he's there. I think he's, that doesn't mean he's not going to get beat every once in a while. Kind of like what Bill Bedenbaugh said, with R. Mason Thomas, and that's who he went up against today. And it sounds like he held his own. But I do think the mental part is starting to click for him, and I just wonder, Eddie, if Sexton misses a week or two of practice, I think that it could open the door to Fasusi possibly starting the beginning of the season, and maybe he never gives that job back up. I don't know.
Sure.
We have to see how it plays out, but it's certainly interesting.
And we talked about this at the beginning of camp, some 14 days ago or something.
Yeah.
It was basically a question of how quickly is this going to be real? How quickly can they acclimate themselves? Are they even ready? And it certainly sounds like they've put themselves to, at the very least, in position to be contributors in 2025. I think that question's kind of off the table now. It's just how much are those guys going to actually play?
Yeah, and that's what Bill said. I mean, he said they're going to play this year. It's just, are they going to be starters? We don't know yet. And maybe it still is one of those things where they don't start till, week 4 or 5, or, it was Caden Green against, I think, Texas a couple years ago that he got thrown in as a true freshman. Like, I could see that scenario.
Sure.
But I certainly would not be surprised if we look up in November and both Fasusi and Fodje are out there starting for Oklahoma. That's how good they've been in fall camp so far, and how talented they are. So, and it's one of those things too, Eddie, like I want to tell everybody out there, that doesn't mean the OU offensive line is just going to be spectacular and they're going to be great right off the bat. They're going to make freshman mistakes. That's going to happen, but they're also uber talented, as Bill said. And I think it's going to, for this offense, this is what I'll say. If this offense is to reach its full potential this year, I think both those guys need to be on the field.
And we'll get to kind of that bridge when we have to get there in terms of going on the road. How's a guy going to react to playing in a loud environment like you're going to play in Knoxville or Tuscaloosa or wherever that may be here in the back end of the season? I guess game by game, day by day. It's going to be kind of one of those cliche lines. A little bit more from Bill Bedenbaugh today. You can watch the entire interview here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. But I did think it was interesting, just overall, talking about Ben Arbuckle as well as John Mateer. And Bill Bedenbaugh kind of echoed everything that we've heard about both of those guys. They love what Arbuckle's brought to the program and the energy, charisma, whatever you want to call it, that surrounds John Mateer. It continues, right?
Yeah, and it sounds, we heard it from Mateer that he's been sitting in on some film studies with the offensive line. Bill Bedenbaugh touched about it. I won't say what he said yet because you'll hear him say it himself. I thought his comments on Arbuckle were really interesting, and the reason I find it interesting is, Bill Bedenbaugh, he got his career in coaching offensive line and air raid offenses. Like, those were the schemes that he's been known for building great offensive lines around, and Ben Arbuckle obviously is an air raid guy. I know he mixes in some other stuff, but I do think that there's a pretty good marriage there between a Bill Bedenbaugh and the way he likes to coach his offensive line and the type of scheme that they're going to be running this year with Ben Arbuckle. It certainly seems like that relationship has gone well so far.
And you talk about some of the great offenses in the history of Oklahoma football and the history of college football. Bill Bedenbaugh's been a part of that. He knows what it looks like. Here he is talking about Ben Arbuckle as well as Kevin Wilson and John Mateer.
What's been it like working with Ben Arbuckle so far, and what adjustments do you have to make?
I love him, man. The he's really, really, really good. I've told people this before, and they may not want to hear it. A young Lincoln. He's smart, man. He understands everything. He's got, for a young guy, got great command. He knows exactly what he wants everybody to do. It's been really, really good. And then just bouncing ideas, maybe of some things that he hasn't done in the past, protection-wise, run game-wise, and if he likes it, we do it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's fine. It's our offense, but ultimately he's the one in charge. But it's been awesome, man. Great dude, great coach, knowledgeable. Has great command of the whole offense. It's good. And I've been, like I said before, I've told you guys. I've been around a lot of good ones, man. He's as good as I think there is.
What about Kevin Wilson being in the group too? I know
he's really good. And again, I think from a general, Kevin's one of the best OCs there's been, and just the general overall knowledge of the whole offense. Obviously he's been an O-line guy, he's been a tight end guy, he's been a quarterback guy, he's done it all, and he's got experience and he's had a lot of success. So from that standpoint, having guys that this is how we've done it, whether it fits or not. You've got options and you got different things and people to lean on, based on scheme or what you're doing. So it's been good.
John Mateer's told us he worked with Troy Everett a little bit during the offseason to understand the offensive line better. What's been that relationship from your perspective about John in the O-line?
It's been great. Like, he was actually, I don't know if he knew what he was in store for when he sat in my meeting, you know what I mean? But he was in, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. So I didn't know he was there, and then kind of get going, look up, and he's sitting there, writing stuff down, listening and all that. But I love John. John's awesome, man. He's, he's a guy that not that you don't want to play for anybody, but, you better step up. This is a guy that's a big-time quarterback like we've had around here, and, you don't want to be the dudes, whatever position it is, to let people down. And that's how it should be anywhere. But when you have a guy like that with the charisma, the swagger, the confidence, the way he plays, you want to step up for him.
Certainly a positive when you're talking about the new guys around the block here. It seems like they've been around for a while now. But
and Bill's seen some great quarterbacks in Oklahoma since 2013. You think about some of the guys he's seen. So.
I can't ever remember a guy like a quarterback going into the offensive line room like John has talked about. And I particularly can't wait to talk to Mateer again, maybe at the end of this week, to see if he learned any new language that he could carry to his practice field.
You think back to guys that were great quarterbacks in Oklahoma, and again, I'm not saying guys previously didn't do stuff like this, but I think back to Baker, and I know that he did a lot of different extra stuff with the offensive linemen. You think of Dylan Gabriel, remember he had like the O-line camp thing that he did in the summer. I remember Kyler Murray would always take his guys every game week to Tea Cafe on Wednesdays after practice. Things like that. That's the kind of stuff that goes a long way. And I think that Mateer also knows that unit wasn't very good last year. And he knows if this offense is going to succeed, that group is the key. So, we'll see if it pays off. But it's certainly a good thing that he's sitting in on those meetings.
He's certainly done all of the off-field stuff, right? Yep. Checked all those boxes. 19 days from now, we'll find out what that thing looks like when Oklahoma kicks off the season against Illinois State. On Tuesday morning, we'll catch up with Deion Burks, as well as a number of guys. Peyton Bowen, Danny Okoye, to name a couple from player interviews, because we talked to a bunch of players after practice on Tuesday. Talked to Jeremiah Newcomb as well. That will be kind of featuring here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel at the end of the week. We'll get back out there. I believe the schedule right now is basically we'll get back out there on Friday and kind of wrap everything up with the Sooners at the end of the week. So far, so good. Sounds like the offensive line, that's exciting to listen to. It's exciting to hear Bill talk about him. It was exciting just to talk to Bill Bedenbaugh for the first time in a long time. So for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel.